our meeting. It's about training topic master in charge of Julie Curtis. This is your meeting for you.
So training topics, pathway training topics. I would like your advice. How you would present pathway to an audience of seasoned, old or new or young or double-aged, but very reluctant people. How the training would go or begin? And that question goes to Graham.
Madam Training Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, funny you should mention this. I'm in fact giving a workshop on Introduction to Pathways on Wednesday night to one of my clubs. They've faced some difficulties actually getting into it, but they're not going to be a real problem. I suspect it'll just simply be a matter of saying to them, okay, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is how you do it. A more difficult club that I'm dealing with is actually not in my area. It's a club that involves a serious number of older members. In fact, 3 of the members at the last meeting I was at had not the current Toastmasters badge, which of course looks something like that. No, these were the old plastic badges with the crossed, the globe of the world and the crossed gavels, and they are not willing to do away with those badges, despite the fact that that's really old school. So the point that I make is that they don't want change. They don't like change. They don't see the need for change. And quite frankly, I am reluctant to say this, but in a couple of cases, I expect that they will simply no longer be doing manual or path projects. I mean, certainly I expect them to continue to contribute to the club. Certainly I expect them to continue to do table topics and to provide evaluations, but they won't be able to evaluate the Pathways projects. They won't be able to evaluate any of the newer members, and so they will become more and more marginalized. It's not something that I like. It's not something that I can help. I'm doing my best to try and encourage them to at least do their icebreaker so they have an understanding of the process. But at this stage, sometimes you can lead a horse to water, but it's just going to go, nay, nay, I'm not having anything to do with it. Madam Topics Master.
My second trainer, pathway trainer topic is asking how you would introduce your pathway to an audience very foreign from you, which you don't know, and where there are several different levels of knowledge. And that question goes to Mufid if he can speak.
Let me test first. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
That's it. So good. Right. Can you repeat the question again, please? Okay, for the Toastmasters, everyone, guests, good day. In fact, I passed that but that experience myself, where I spoke to some people who never had anything about pathways, and I was meeting them for the first time. And I had to start with a question. Now, the first thing is, what is the most thing that they might fear in their life? And of course, answers came in different ways. And then I cut them short and said, I think death is not the first thing that comes on the top. Then I started leading them through the training and how things have to be revised and changed. Then I spoke about the number of competencies the conventional Toastmasters had and how many competencies are covered in the pathways. Then I took an example of 2 pathways where the competencies priorities have changed, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 4, 2, 3, and whatever. And then started to show that how can two people of the same profession have different needs. So because of the different needs, you have the liberty, you have the flexibility to choose whatever that comes to you. And believe me, the effect of that was very much motivational. 3 of that group joined Toastmasters within 2 weeks of that speech. And I think that is a success. Now, what we learn from this, that wherever you want to talk to people, don't consider whether you know them or you don't know them. It's the idea is, how do you present your case to them? Thank you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. My next trainer, Pathway Topics, would ask how we would persuade, motivate someone who did not yet begin Pathway to do so. And that question goes to Hermin, who I think is not yet on Pathway.
Thank you for the question, Toastmaster Julie. Do I come loud and clear? Can you hear me loud and clear, Toastmaster Julie?
Well. Very well.
All right. How am I going to motivate somebody who's not yet in Pathways? Perhaps I'll use a story. Perhaps I'll share a success story of somebody who was initially skeptical about moving from the traditional manual to the Pathways, and tap in into the motivation. Perhaps I will share to them the gamification elements of Pathways and the social media elements of Pathways that were integrated into the whole Pathway system. I will show them that they could actually get badges and earn points or certificates as they go along a pathway that they have chosen, and share to them that I could use this as a proof of my professional development and personal growth as well. If I'd be able to do this and tap into their intrinsic motivation and motivate them or persuade them to do the same, because if I can do it, they can also do it, and perhaps that will be effective. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Hermin. I hope you motivated even yourself this time. I think that Pathway was designed, not I think, I have listened to Pat Johnson telling. One was retired people, the second was people whose English was not first language. Both groups I belong. And then they were the young professional and the middle managers, and there was someone else, I don't know. But what is important, of course, is telling a story. I agree completely. Now, I would like to ask another question. What was the motivation, because we are speaking about tricks and trips and motivation, of the early pioneers like Brian, who began Pathway even before Pathway arrived, even before it was given to us? How could you train people and show them what is Pathway before Pathway was introduced already? Brian? Please open your...
Yeah. Well, I'm very good at doing research, Madam Topics Master. So I researched. I listened to speeches that were given, like Pat Johnson when she delivered a speech in Kuala Lumpur about that, the progress they were making. Previous to that, got emails asking me if I wanted to be a founder, or whatever it was called, and then a pathways guide and that type of stuff. Ambassador is the word I'm looking for. So I went on the internet, and I didn't have any inside knowledge. Nobody gave me any inside knowledge, except once Pat Johnson mentioned something about the manuals being online. And that's the only clue that I had, that the manuals were going to be online and not printed out. Other than that, I didn't have any advance on it. So I went on the internet. People were putting information on the internet almost from the day that they rolled it out, when it was still the revised education program. And even after in Kuala Lumpur, I don't think they named it Pathways. It was still the revised education program. And I was giving speeches to the clubs about that and gleaning the information as I went along. When I did see Pathways for the first time, I thought, wow, did I ever get that right? I was about 90% right in what I gleaned out of the internet from, and this included speeches given in different district meetings and stuff like that were recorded and put on the internet. And eventually I got some screenshots of what was going on. So it was like doing a jigsaw puzzle. I just loved it. But I will tell you that story at another time when I have 20 minutes. Thank you, Madam Table. Topics Master. Training Master.
And then, of course, another example of someone who is not so young and embrace completely pathway. But young students also embrace it. And Brian proved it also. Also, the next question would go for someone who works with students. And that is the next question goes to Mark. Do you use a pathway or the learning of pathways for students you coach around you?
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. I most definitely use elements of Pathway to reach my students. They love it because it is online. They can relate to it. I'm making a concerted effort to establish online connections at universities, because if there's one thing a student has, it is a PC. It is a cell phone, iPhone. And this is a way in which other students in other parts of Mexico can meet one another, and we can exchange ideas and utilize. As a matter of fact, several of my students are participating in a competition tomorrow, and to prepare them, I needed to use Pathways to hone their skills, to act as a means for motivation. And this has been extremely beneficial for me. And upon closing, I use it in the workplace. My professional clients have seen it and they enjoy it very much. Thank you for your question. I appreciate it very much and yield to you.
And the next question goes to Nick, our guest. I would like to know which part of Pathway, if you are already on, as I think, you like the best. Which one you would like to speak in a training to others?
Okay, thank you, Madam Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. I really like the motivational strategies. I picked that path. When I actually did it, when I actually picked it, to be honest with you, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why. It just felt right. I got out of bed one day and I thought, yeah, okay, let's do that. We didn't really know very much about pathways. But I think the advice that I give my members right now is take the test, take the assessment, take it 2 or 3 times, but then go with your gut. And for me, motivational strategies mean something. It means that something to me, it means something to somebody hearing it. Just the phrase, motivational strategies. It actually means helping, somebody achieve something, helping them get up and do something. Also, strategies means to actually have an overview, have a holistic view of it, and so, but then be ready to dive down deep where you need to actually go and perform the projects. So that way, I felt that it achieved what I wanted to do, which was to help with my profession, my work, and also with my club. And because I am the figurehead for Pathways, and I want to motivate my members to go and achieve in Pathways. Now, to be honest with you, I've been learning more about Pathways now. We've got 2 or 3 people who've achieved level 1, 1 person level 2. The people are making strides in that. And the really good thing is, I'm learning more about the other paths as well. And one of the reasons for for me wanting to look to join an online club is that I want to actually open up a new path and do my icebreaker again online and, do something else different, but to actually increase my learning for the benefit, not just of myself, but to motivate my members at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And this really last question goes to Animesh, our other guest. And I would like to ask you how you would begin to train your club members, new club members who just arrived to your club about Pathways.
Okay. Well, thank you, Madam Topics Master, for the question. Well, most of my new club members would be students. So, I mean, our club is mostly comprised of, not mostly, actually all of it is students, students from different batches. So right now I'm a 3rd year student, and the members we have incoming are mostly 2nd year students or 1st year students. So 1st year students mostly would understand it if a guy like me usually goes around and talks to them about Pathways or something like that, and especially when they are about to give their icebreakers. I think motivating them about this would require me to tell them how it becomes important for them to take up other roles in other spheres of other aspects of college later in their college life. Let's say next year they might be into student mentorship, right? So these things actually get into it. About Pathways, well, Pathways is pretty new, and by default they're registered into it. So helping them understand is like telling them how and where to go to what. So it's just like giving them directions, right? I guess that's all about it. Over to you, Julie. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day, Julian.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you for that very nice training topics for this session. Let's start with evaluation facilitation. In this case, for the first speaker, Brian Dutt.
better unmute myself. How many minutes do I have for this? 4 minutes or 5 minutes? 4 minutes? 4 minutes. Okay. I'll get a couple of opinions from a couple of people to fill in for what Julie is talking about, and then I will do just a little part of a summation of something that I think that is useful for all of us to look at when we're talking to new members. So who wants to give feedback first? Nick, how would you like to give feedback to Julie? 1 minute.
Sorry, myself?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
What do
sorry.
you think of Julie's presentation?
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Well, you know, one of the things that you brought out very well was the perceived dichotomy of pathways and age, or people's experience. And, you know, we have clubs here in England that I know about. There's one very near me where, you know, people have said, pathways, why should we do this? Why should we do the icebreaker again? Why should we go through this again? We've done it already. And, you know, it's strange for me because most of the people I've encountered through Toastmasters are open-minded, level-headed, and, you know, free-thinking and intelligent. And when I actually hear attitudes like that, I think, no, that's terrible, because don't you understand that when you actually do an icebreaker again, as you said, you have more than 4 minutes of your life to share. So that was really, really important for me. And I think that overall, I think you did a good job to introduce pathways. And I think that, you know, I would tighten that up a little bit. I would recommend that. But yeah, on the whole, you got your points across really well and clear. Thank you.
Let me pick on Animesh again, because he's new. And let's get the opinion of what you thought of the presentation, because you're new and you're only, and Pathways is your only comparison. So how did you feel that Julie did in her presentation to you?
Okay, so I actually saw all of this, and the first reaction was from me was, okay, most of it is pretty much the material we were presented, and I guess putting it into perspective using age, I think that was pretty good, because this particular thing about, you know, experience, I think I'll very well agree with Nick about this, because this particular thing about age, and then there's one more problem of credit, how credit should be considered, because that becomes a big problem of, you know, that people have been asking questions about that, which is why I think this was pretty much needed. I really appreciate Julie on that, and also ending on a high. Oh my God, I literally laughed at that very ending. I later found out, are you a stand-up comedian? On a personal note, are you a stand-up comedian? She is. Oh my God. Okay. Well, on that note, I bow to you, lady. Please teach me.